Hello everyone, so I was finally able to play F122 over the last little week here. So of course this is a game that takes you into the world of F1 racing. It is made by Codemasters and published by EA Sports. I have about 12 to 15 hours in this, just doing the races, going through the main kind of campaign, or again just the main stage from being an F2 racer all the way to an F1 racer. So I played a decent amount of this. Played it on PS5, did a little bit of online play. So yeah, without further ado, let me get into my review for F122. So I should mention that this is my first time playing any of the F1 games. I know there's been one basically every single year for the past like 10 years basically. But yeah, this is my first time ever stepping into the franchise. And I've heard that EA recently took over publishing rights for the games and whatnot. So I can't speak to how the previous games were and how this compares to the rest of them, but I will do my best again just to kind of to go over the basic overviews of the features that they have in this. And my background in racing is I absolutely love the Forza franchise. It's been number one for me ever since I played the first Forza game, and it's just my racing simulator. I love them so much. But I always try to dive into all the other simulators like Dirt and Gran Turismo and those. So I thought I would give this a shot. And I do easily have to say that this is, I want to put it at number two, right underneath Forza, of course, in terms of racing simulators, because I did really enjoy playing this. It's not without its flaws, and there are a decent amounts of them, but I did really like it as a racing simulator. It feels great, sounds great in a lot of respects. But yes, when it comes down to the base of this game, there is a lot of kind of weird choices that I found they made for an F1 game. But when it gets down to the race, I'll talk about that a little later. So when it gets down to the racing, you do have a few options that you can jump straight into the online where you just race against other people. You have your collection of cars that you unlock throughout, again, just completing challenges in the main campaign, things like that. But there are a few ways that you can tackle this game. So the main kind of campaign that you go through is you can either start straight in F1 or you do the typical, you're in F2. Win a few races, you'll get your placement, sponsorships, deals, depending on how well you did in the F2 races. There's 7 races in total that you do. So yes, you go through those. If you place better, you'll get better offers from teams. Better you do, better chances you get of joining some of the top teams like Ferrari and of course Mercedes, even Red Bull Racings, and of course they have all the teams, Williams. And then you get into the F1 circuits and you can either choose short, medium, long-term seasons, so 10, I think 16 or 22 races total. And yeah, you just basically go throughout, and there's a bunch of challenges between each race that you're able to kind of it gives you upgrades for your team, your research and development to give you better upgrades for your car, better battery life, better tires, all those good things. So it's definitely worth going through the practice laps and doing some of the optional challenges that they have to place you in this game, because again, they just all factor into upgrading your car. There'll be just little things like the lines that you have when you're doing the racing. Stay within 2 meters of that, you'll get better tires. Stay on the track the entire time, you'll get increased power in your car, like the little things like that again just help your R&D team be able to fine-tune your car for the races a lot better. And that's how you upgrade your cars, your experience, and of course too just your driver influence as you go through the races. And I found the races are very fun, very intense racing. I'll kind of get into the gameplay a little bit after I just talk about these basic features. So the one thing that did confuse me a little bit is even too when it comes to between the F1 races of the season, there'll be little challenges that you can do where you basically, I know this happens in the real world too, but Mercedes, McLaren, all these car companies will invite you to test drive their cars and take them on just very almost gauntlet-like challenges that you're able to go and complete. And by doing so, you'll again get driver influence and things like this. But I found that compared to the F1 cars, the racing was so clunky in these little challenges, and a lot of them just didn't really feel like it was making you a better F1 driver. It just felt really out of place, and I feel like if they wanted to add, again, just another components of races or cars, they should have gone with F3, because they have F2 in this. They should have gone with F3 instead of these little challenges. I don't know, they just felt out of place in terms of the racing, and then to just the style of racing that they had. It just didn't really fit or feel right in terms of it being in an F1. And that kind of goes down to the collectibles of this, where again, more experience you get, the better you do in the races. You'll unlock perks, which will give you more cosmetics for your cars. They'll give you even to you get to create like your own apartments in this game where you stylize the furniture, the lighting, your carpets, your wall decor, things like that. And I mean, I guess like it's kind of nice. There's one table that's like a F1 engine coffee table that I actually thought was really, really cool. And I wanted that in the room that I had, but it felt out of place in terms of it being in the game. And again, too, when it comes to the progression in this game, it being EA, there's a lot of you'll get the basic unlocks from your tiers, but then if you subscribe to the premium version or you want to do microtransactions, there's that to give you more cosmetics. And again, just feels like the content you actually walk behind paywalls, and that did annoy me a little bit. Not at all did I even think about diving into it or buying any of these cosmetics, but again, it's just you see that and it's just kind of heartbreaking. You don't like it. I know they have that in Forza and whatnot too, but not in the way of like progression and things like that. So I just found it annoying that a lot of content was locked behind paywalls. It's not something that you really want to boot up a racing game, because at least for me, racing games are my comfort games. I absolutely love going through just driving. I have a lot of fun doing it. So yeah, seeing that was just a little annoying when I'm trying to, again, just escape and have a fun time. So when it comes to, again, just the elements that make up the game, it's very simple, but again, I like that. I don't really need much more from a racing simulator. The music that they have in the background and whatnot is very, very nice. There's some good songs in it that I all find kind of fit the atmosphere. And of course, that doesn't play when you're actually doing the actual racing, which I liked. I know some people might want to put on their Spotify or listen to their own music when they race, but yeah, when it came to this, I liked hearing the sounds of the engines and whatnot. I do think the sound design is very, very well done. And again, too, just the roar of their F1 cars are great, even when like you're passing by other cars, or say there's you complete one ring and there's other people behind you coming. You can hear just the roar of their cars in the distance. I found that all sounded really, really good. And again, too, the sound design, audio design is really, really good in this game. When it comes to the graphics, everything kind of looks good if you're just looking at it for face value. The cars look good, they're shiny. But when you start looking, again, a little more intensely at the crowds, the buildings in the background, sometimes the lighting and whatnot, so even though, again, I play this on PS5, that's where you start to notice a few, again, just like your real world cars but in a cartoon environments, things like that. So again, it's not, you're focused on the racing on the track and all of that looks good, but the things in the backgrounds, again, if you're looking at that, which you really shouldn't be doing when you're doing an F1 type of racing, yeah, it's a little weird. And again, so the locations that it takes you to are absolutely international and really, really good tracks that they're able to pull in from, of course, the actual F2 F1 racing series, and they're very, very fun to go through. The dynamic weather and lighting, and of course too, just time of days changing between the races, I found was really, really nice and shakes up things, especially too when water gets on the course. It really affects your vehicle and you have to tune your cars appropriately, and there's a lot of cartooning that you can do. It's decently organized. I've seen a lot better in other racing simulators, but I was able to manage it once I got used to it. It's just a little clustered in some areas, but again, there's a lot of things that you can do and a lot of recommendations that were actually nice and decently organized in that sense to tell you what you should be doing with your car, depending on, again, the track environments, the day environments, how long the race is, what tires you should be using, things like that. Which, again, just really fine tune the car to the way you want to drive and the way you should be driving, again, just based off of the weather inclements that are going to be affecting the race. So again, it's decently organized. I had fun playing with that. And of course too, with the change of F1 cars this year where they're a lot lower to the grounds, I did find that I mean, I know it would in real life too, but when it came to you're low, like you're really low on the ground, so the racing is a lot more intense, clunky, and violent, and that really translates to the corners where I found handling on the car is decent depending on, of course, the cars that you have, and you can fine tune them the way you want. But you hit like the little bumps on the side of the road and tail spin, and it was really, really annoying to things where, again, you can't cut corners in F1, you can't do bumps or legal passes, things like that. But I found that it was so tricky. Like you make one little mistake on the line, even sometimes the lines will tell you to hit the curb, but since you're so low to the ground, again, it's just violent, and you have a very good chance of burning out, spinning out in this game in a lot of senses. And I found that was really, really annoying. Even too, there's times where the AI drivers or real world drivers would hit the back of my car, and that was it. A lot of the time I would just spin out so easily. So I found that to be a little bit annoying, especially when they wouldn't get penalties for doing such. So again, that change I feel like it does need to be a little more fine-tuned and forgiving in a lot of ways when it comes to the racing. But again, when it comes to the handling, the control of the cars, everything, I played it. I really want a racing rig, but I just don't have the right kind of table for it. It's not my desk isn't secured to the leg, so if I make one crazy turn, there goes my desk, my entire setup here. So I had to do it off a controller, but I found the controller felt really good. Mapping was, I didn't need to change anything. It was suited exactly to the way that I like to play my racing games. And it all felt really well. Again, the handling changes from car to car, but you're able to get it down very well. I recommend, again, doing the practice laps before you go into, of course, your trials, which will give you your chance to be in pole position or just the position you're going to be in the final race. Before you go into the final races, learn the tracks, do things like that, learn the turns. Actually, again, take your time so you'll perform a lot better into the actual races, which again, I did really appreciate, and I had a lot of fun going through the practice routes and whatnot. And again, it just helps you fine tune your car in a lot of ways. But kind of like thinking about the whole thing, it does feel very simple and empty in a lot of ways, especially when you finish the main campaign and you go back to the next season and it's all the same races, but maybe just in a different sequence. But of course, same tracks, things like that. So I feel like if there was a way to do track editors, things like that, it would have been really nice. Of course, customizing your apartments and then customizing the way your character wants to look. You'll never see them this way, but customize how your character wants to look just in streetwear and whatnot. You're basically just being a Puma chaser the entire time, or a Puma influencer. So I found things like that didn't really need to be in an F1 game. And again, too, just the fact that most of those cosmetics were locked beneath paywalls annoyed me a little bit. And again, I don't really like seeing that in my racing game. But of course, again, too, when it comes to customizing how your character looks in terms of his suits, his helmet, the gloves he wears, things like that, I did enjoy that, and I found that was very nice to have in a racing game. Those are the cosmetics that I kind of want to see, and they make sense. Again, when it comes to customizing your Dravatar, if you want to say that, it makes sense in a game like Forza Horizon, but in an F1 game, I didn't really find, again, just it's mostly just the fact that it's blocked behind paywalls, and so I feel like, dude, that's just, since it was EA, a lot of the things didn't really land that way for me. But again, when it comes to the driving, everything's fine. There's just a little fine tuning that I find they need to do with the cars. Again, some of the visual design that they have in the game to make it, again, just a little more pretty to look at and a lot more consistent in terms of all of the graphics that I put into this. But again, this is one of my favorite racing simulators that I've ever played, and I'll definitely be playing some more of it. And when 23 comes out, definitely excited to check up on it. I know this game's actually been pretty big, so hopefully they can increase that budget a little bit and go a little bit bigger and better in terms of the cars, the scale of the game. Again, just tuning the cars a little bit. Even if they're able to offer you like classic mode where you go old school styles of the F1 cars, so not so low to the ground and things like that, I feel like that would be really fun. Just a bunch more game modes would be really nice to go through. But really, with everything taken together, again, I did really enjoy my time with F1 2022, and that is why I'm gonna have to give it a 7.5 out of 10. If you're into racing simulators a lot like me, it's definitely worth picking up. Again, I can't really speak to how it progresses the series of the F1 games because I haven't played anything that's come before it, but I'm definitely here to stay. And when more games come out in the coming years, I'll definitely be giving them a shot because, again, I was impressed by a lot of what was in this game. So if you played F1 2022, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. And if you like this review, definitely give it a thumbs up. You can check out everything I do on the channel through the playlist down below, and I'll link some up top here for convenience sake. Thank you for subscribing and turn that little bell on so you know when I upload new videos. If you want to check out everything I do live stream Twitch-wise, link to that in the description of this video, and of course my channel bio, and in both of those places you'll find a link to the Media Mountain, which is my Discord where we talk about movies, video games, comic books, TV, pretty much everything that's awesome in this world. So you definitely join those amazing communities, help make you more amazing than it is already. And yeah, just awesome, guys.
Sky blue eyes, I see a world behind them. No more time sinking into the silence.